Hey, I'm Rob Patz.
And I'm Kristen Stanton.
Welcome to the Rob and Kristen Show. In a galaxy far, far away, that is where that city is, in case you were wondering. Who knows? Nobody knows. Nobody cares anymore.
I
They've
care.
stopped asking. They've stopped asking. So it's over. I guess that's the end of that. It was exciting while it lasted. Must be time for a new opening then.
Maybe. I think pretty soon.
I think so. We are closer and closer and closer to being in a studio where instead of, as our friend says, we're Ricky and Lucy, separate, get it? That's very clever. We will be one, kind of like when we got married. And anyway, welcome to the Rob and Kristen Show. Hey, we want to thank the great folks at My Pillow. You know, I've been talking about this for months. Right now, great deals on slippers and sheets and pillows and all kinds of neat stuff over at mypillow.com. Go to the website, use the promo code ATV and get some blankets, some sheets. I mean, well, maybe blankets too, and pillows and slippers, all kinds of neat stuff. Kristen and I have decided we're going to do it because we need to get some new sheets and new pillows, and I want new slippers. Kristen doesn't wear slippers, so it'll just be me.
You always need new slippers, so it's nothing
I
new.
always do. See, but that kind of leads us into things, well, that we think are important. In fact, it's 5 things that we think you should know. And this week we start off with March Madness. And if by now you still have a bracket that looks anywhere near normal, my hat goes off to you because my brackets are so broken. I am playing with a bunch of pastors, so I can't say what I'm really thinking in there. And it has been just rough. If you're telling me that Marquette loses, Indiana loses, Duke loses, and several other, Baylor, who I had picked, Indiana, who I thought was going to do a lot better than this, and Kansas, who I thought was going to win it all, and they're all gone. Gone like yesterday, gone like the 4th of July, to quote the great song. And it has been a rough March Madness. I hope your bracket's doing better. Now, I had an interesting thing out of this. For next year, here on the Rob and Kristen Show, we're going to do a bracket challenge so you can be a part of it. I actually had 3 people, not a whole bunch, but 3, who said you guys should do it. And Kristen and I would love to do it with you. Kristen actually does this kind of stuff. So it's kind of cool.
I haven't for a while.
No, I know. But it's kind of like anything though. March is March Madness. And of course, in Iowa, that means it snows. We went this past weekend and did a ministry weekend. And it was in, I don't know, what part of Ohio would you call that? Middle Ohio? Middle part of Ohio?
Yeah, Central Ohio.
Central Ohio. And there was snow, ladies and gentlemen, but not like the snow in this next story.
Yeah, we've been talking about March Madness and we've been talking about snow, and I'm telling you what, over in outside of Sacramento, about 80 miles outside of Sacramento in the Sierra Nevadas, the Bear Valley Resort has gotten over 600 inches of snow since late 2022. Over 600. I think their normal is like 300 inches of snow. And so they have gotten a crazy amount of snow out there. And they were talking about one of the members of the ski patrol out there was able to touch the top of the chairlift while his skis were still on the ground, on the slopes.
Yes. Which is the only way you're going to ever catch me on a ski lift is if my skis are still touching the ground.
will you have skis on? Or, because that's a kind of a dangerous step for you. If you have skis on, you might end up going down the mountain.
I don't know, but if I did go down the mountain, I'd want to get one of those saucers like we used to have. Remember those saucers?
Yes.
Those things are awesome. That's the way I want to go down the hill because you know what? You only live once. And that is the case in our next story. The oldest lady to play hockey, she is 85 years old and she is still playing hockey. Guinness Book of World Records, the oldest female hockey player, 85 years old. And you know what? She quit in the middle because she thought she was getting too old and then she decided to come back. And
You
then
know what?
master, they were worried about her, as the story goes. They were worried about her getting hurt. Yeah, I think she was 75 at the time. I mean, come on, people. This late. Now, here's the thing, though. If I had to go into a fight, I'm taking her with me because she's spunky. If I'm going in, if like, because in hockey, there's a lot of, she's the person I want because, she's a survivor at 85 years old, still plays hockey, enjoys it. Started off, though, interesting story because they asked her how she got into hockey, and she had been a figure skater. And at 35, she was with a bunch of friends, and they said, "Hey, we're doing a female hockey league. You want to come be a part of it?" Well, she had loved skating, and so this worked out so cool for her. And she's not from North Dakota. And I can make fun of them because I'm from up in that part of the country, you betcha. And I think this next story, they probably called home and said, "You're never gonna believe this. Mabel, you're never gonna believe what just happened to us."
Well, she may not have been from North Dakota, but this family was on a vacation in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and they were out on a fishing trip. Hey, we're from North Dakota, we want to go to Florida. And so they decided to go out an adventure out on the sea, and they caught a little bit more than what they were expecting. They reeled in a great white shark, and they said that they had felt this tug. And I think they said that it took them about 40 minutes. They kept just trading people. After a while, they were sitting there trying to reel it in. And after about 40 minutes, they were finally able to get it in and found out that they had caught a great white shark. So can you imagine a great white
No,
shark?
no, oh yeah, you betcha. No, don't know what we're gonna do with this big gray white shark. So you know what? We're gonna throw it back into the water. We got casserole in the back. We got casserole back there. We always sit around, got covered dishes. We'll have some garlic bread. Can
He's
you imagine? And can you imagine their Instagram and all these people back home in North Dakota, and they're sitting there with this shark in pictures? You got to think it happened.
Oh, I'm sure that it did.
And they
I'm
probably were thinking they were, because you can go to those places and you can get the fake one and, you
Yes.
know,
Yes, they
and they're
probably
like,
did think
"Oh
it was
no,
fake.
no, Ols, no, you didn't have that. There, no shark." You know.
They were probably still fishing
Oh
someplace.
yes, up there. Yes. And speaking of, casseroles, that's one of my favorite scents, by the way. But coming up, it is National Fragrance Day. So National Fragrance Day, you'd think about the fact that it would be a cologne or a perfume. That's not always the case. Fragrance can be candles, which by the way, my wife has gotten me into candles, and freely admit that I now light candles on a regular basis. And I don't know, it
He
kind of
does.
centers me.
He does. I will be gone, and I will come home, and I will walk in, and I will smell a candle. So, but yeah,
Yes.
and
I
fragrances
love yeah.
fragrances do make a difference. I remember smelling certain things. I'll walk into a store and I'll smell something, and it'll immediately take me back in my memories to something else. Or I'll smell a perfume, and it will remind me of when my mom would get in the car as a kid, would be on the way to church, and because that's what I would associate with it. Or Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever
Oh
it
yeah.
might be.
Same thing, like a lot of candles. A lot of people love candles during the holidays and have these scented candles. I love them during the holidays because it's like gingerbread and stuff. and it's incredible. And speaking of, I used my fancy cologne. We went out, my wife got me some really good stuff. It's like, it's good. Like, this is one of the things, it's good when it's like a little tiny bottle. You do like 3 squirts and then, that's like $100. You're like, oh shoot, what did I just do? You don't want to ever like cover. Now, I'll tell you this though, kind of interesting on that, and we're gonna segue into something that's really neat, a story. Um, but I have certain scents that I wear like when I travel because they're less offensive, because they're more light and airy, and just kind of, as
Mhm.
one person said, I smelled kind of like the bathroom in the Delta Sky Club, and I wasn't sure that was a compliment, and I'm still not sure. But hey, we had a chance to go and do things that happened to me. We had a chance this weekend though to go and have so much fun with the great folks at Channel 39 in Marion, Ohio, and we had a blast. So, as we say in television, we've got a video package set up, and we're going to do that right now. Come back and talk some more after this. Hey, we're so excited. We're here at Channel 39 in Marion, Ohio, and it's a great facility. And if you're in the area, you should be watching them on Channel 39. And we're excited. Kristen gets to sing and do some stuff. We'll let you know. In fact, we did a little shot of us walking in. You'll see more about that. Man, this is going to be so much fun, and we're so blessed. And we'll tell you more about it later.
Six, 5, 4, 3, 2.
All right, everybody, welcome again to the Good News Freedom Show. And I'm your host, Brother James Deaton. As you can tell, we've got a guest with us. We've got Sister Kristen Stanton here. She's going to sing a couple of songs. We're going to come back and talk to her, so we'll be back in a little bit.
I had been singing. I was on the praise and worship team at church, and so it was not anything that I knew that I couldn't do, but it wasn't something that I dreamed of. You hear a lot about a lot of people that say, when I was 7, I heard so-and-so sing, and I dreamed of being a Christian singer.
Right.
Oh no. I told God no for 9 months.
Right.
I had gone and I had talked to my pastor.
Hey, we had so much fun. That was a great weekend. You saw the snow. We wanted to prove that there was snow in
Oh,
Ohio.
the weather was atrocious driving down there. I think we passed about 5 accidents, and these weren't just like little, 1 car. There were like 3 or 4 cars, it seemed like, in every one of them. It was bad, but we got there, we sat down and we did a radio interview, and then we went and we put together I sang about 3 songs, I think, and we did an interview and wrapped a show, and I think we have some more of those things that are gonna be on our YouTube channel, right?
You can get the whole expanded, longer version of this, including the interview that Kristen did with the radio part of their ministry there. And it was so much fun. By the way, you saw the album covers at the end. Hey, if you're interested, find out more information by just contacting us either through Facebook or through our website at abundanttv.com. So proud of you. You did a great job. And I had fun being the camera guy. And that show is going to air on Channel 39 this coming week. And we'll have a link. We'll make sure that we post a link so people can see Kristen's interview. She did an awesome job there. Hey, I want to talk really quick before we get into today's message about a great event that we have coming up September 16th, Perrysburg, Ohio. We are going to have our first Abundant Conference, and we want you to come. We want you to be there, be with us, and have a lot of fun. It's really easy. And you know what? The best part, because I'm cheap, the tickets are free. Come and hang out with us. Plus, if you want to stay at the Holiday Inn Express right there in Perrysburg, we have a great deal for you there at the hotel. Stay and hang out with us. We've got people coming in from all over the country, Florida, Illinois, Missouri, Michigan, of course, which is right above us, and Indiana. And so we're going to have a great time. We are going to announce some of the people that are going to be there with us coming up in the next couple of weeks. Also, hey, I want to mention something. Last week, you made us the #1 show on Abundant TV. I want to thank each and every one of you so very much for that. Also, you made the block from 8 o'clock until midnight, the #1 time slot on Abundant TV. And there's a show that, of course, we're super proud of because we helped get it kind of off the ground. And that is Carrie Hoffmeister. Carrie was on with us last week. She did Raymond Arroyo. This week, she's got Ginger Duggar, or as I like to call her, Jinger, because her name is spelled with a J.
But that
And my wife
doesn't
had
mean
to
it's
explain to me why.
Jinger.
Huh?
How is that Jinger?
Jinger? Jinger.
No, it's Ginger.
I didn't know who she was even, which is no offense for all you, whatever the name of that show was, fans, but she's got a great interview. That's tonight following us here on Abundant TV. Carry on with Ginger Duggar. See, now I have to think in my head. I have to make sure I don't say Jinger. It's Ginger Duggar, but Carrie does a great job. I saw the interview. You're actually going to also be able to catch it on a podcast. And Ginger is also the cover of SGN Scoops magazine this month. So all kinds of cool stuff going on for Jinger.
Well, I've got no words to segue into the lesson after that Jinger joke. And
the Jinger joke. It's the double J.
So, no, but one of the things that obviously are important to us, and we like to have a good time here on the Rob and Kristen Show, and we like to have a good time just in general, but we love to go out and do ministry. And so this last weekend, being able to go out and record a show and be involved with their radio ministry that they do there at TV 39 in Marion was so important to me. To be able to share a little bit about my story and how God called me to sing. And then obviously with what we're doing here on Abundant TV, it makes a huge difference when people actually get to hear our story. And we only told just a teeny tiny part of that this last weekend. But it's really fun. And I love the fact that part of the video clip that you put into this was when I sang Destiny by Design, because I believe that God has a plan for everybody and for everything. I don't think that there is anything that takes God by surprise. And so when we are looking into this passage that we're going to look into here today, I've called it the valley between. I believe God always has a plan for everything, and I believe that God expects us to seek him with even just the little details of our life. I don't think God is a take a step back and just let us do whatever we want and he doesn't care. I'll pray for things as minute as I need a parking place and I know that it's going to be crowded, or hey God, this is what I really need because this is what's bothering me. And last week we talked about the Israelites walking up into the Jordan River. And we talked about what to do when your life is at flood stage, and they had to be obedient, and they had to do this that just looked like it was impossible, but God made a way. And then if you continue to read the scripture right after that, it talks about the famous story that everybody knows about Joshua and the Battle of Jericho, where they just marched around the city, and how God just took care of that, and how they defeated that just by marching around the city and then the walls falling down. Because without God intervening, there would have been absolutely no way for them to win that battle, because those walls were too big, too high, too thick. The people were too great, but God intervened. But then something happened. After they won that battle, we see, if you're following along, just go to Joshua chapter 7. After we see that happen, we see in verse 2, it says, "And Joshua sent men from Jericho to Ai, which is beside Bethaven on the east side, and the view, and spoke unto them, saying, Go up and view the country. And the men went up and viewed Ai. And they returned to Joshua, and they said unto him, Let not all the people go up, but let about 2 or 3,000 men go up and smite Ai, and make not all of the people to labor there, for they are but a few." So all of a sudden, we see the Israelites say, "Oh, we can take them. They're just a small amount of people. They're no big deal." So we see a couple of different things here, Rob. The first thing is that I question in verse 2 is, did Joshua talk to God about going up into Ai, or did he just do it on his own? Was he feeling really great about this victory? And yeah,
Sun's out, guns out, baby. We're going to take these little tiny people. In fact, you know what? They're wimpy little people, so we're only going to send 2,000.
but they did. They went up and they didn't seek God. We don't see, I mean, if they did, the Bible does not tell us that they sought God. And the reason that I don't think that they sought God was because of what happened. Joshua just immediately, they went up and they sent these people. And obviously, we can see in verse 3, we can see that it looks as though in their approach to this battle, they kind of forgot about the power of God in Jericho. And they said, "Oh, we can take them. We'll only send a couple thousand people. It's no big deal." Well, it wasn't a big deal, because when God moved in Jericho, God is the one who moved in Jericho. It
Right.
didn't have anything to do with the strength of Israel or the power of Israel. It had everything to do with the power of God. And so we saw this, and they ended up in this valley, and they ended up having 36 men get killed, and they were defeated by this small group of people from Ai. And it says in verse 3, it says, "And the men of Ai smote of them about 36 men, for they chased them from before the gate even unto Shebarim, and smote them in the going down." So one of the things that we see is that they went up into Ai thinking that this was going to be an easy victory. And then they were defeated, and they were killed on the way back down into this valley. And it really got me thinking that about, sometimes we end up in a valley for a couple different reasons. Sometimes we end up in a valley because we're someplace where we're not supposed to be, or where we're not supposed to be yet. Because in this case, they were going to go into Ai, they were going to do that. But God wasn't prepared for them to do that yet, because Israel had sin in the camp, and that's why they were defeated. Without seeking God, if Joshua had sought God, he would have known that there was sin in the camp. But instead, they were defeated. And I love the fact that they came back, and Joshua started whining. He started whining to God. Now, maybe you don't see it as whining, but I'm reading the verse, and since I'm the one reading it, I get to interpret it how I want to. And it says in verse 7, it says, and we know from verse 6 that Joshua fell on his face before God. But he said in verse 7, "Alas, O Lord God, why have you brought this people over the Jordan to deliver us into the hand of the Amorites to destroy us? Would to God we have been content to dwell on the other side of Jordan. Oh God, why did you bring us here only to kill us and to let us die at the hands of our enemies?" Does this
Can you
not
see him?
sound familiar?
can you see him on the ground and he's pounding his fist? This is not fair.
It's not fair, God. It's not fair. And it's funny because if you read the passage, God says, "Get up." So it's like,
Almost like a father. Like when you're throwing a tantrum, get up. Don't
yes,
don't embarrass us.
get up, Joshua. Get up. I didn't leave you to and bring you this far to have you defeated by your enemy. But we do that, Rob. We know God has brought us to a situation, and then all of a sudden we're in the middle of this valley and we're crying out, "Oh God, why have you left us here? Why have you abandoned us? Why are you allowing this to happen?" All of these things. And yet they were in this valley at this time because of the fact that they were someplace that they were not supposed to be in the first place. They weren't ready. We had no descriptors of anything other than what we just read about what happened. But when they got the sin out of the camp and they stoned the people who were disobedient to God, they got rid of that. And we fast forward into chapter 8. I'm just going to read just one part of a verse. And it says, "Now there was a valley between them and Ai." And that one little section just popped out at me. There was a valley between them and Ai. They knew that they had to go fight the battle. They had a plan, but it didn't mean that there was no valley there. And this was a valley that they had been defeated in before. So imagine how difficult it was to actually be in this valley and to know that you had to be in this valley. But here they were, and they knew that they had to cross it through the valley to get to where God wanted them to be. But isn't that just like how things are in life, where we have to go into the valley as God leads us into the valley? Because as fun as it is to stand on the mountaintop and see the future of what God has for us, in order to get to that next place, in order to go where it is that God wants you to go, sometimes He requires you to go through the valley to test your strength, to test your endurance, for Him to show His power so that you can get to where it is that He wants you to go.
Mhm.
And so
That's
anytime you look at life in general and you look at the situations, you can see that oftentimes there is a valley between. And it's not ironic that it was that descriptor was in that verse. There was a valley between. They had to go through the valley in order to get to where God wanted them to be, just like we have to go through a valley oftentimes to get where God wants us to be.
wow. This has been a great addition. And it's just, we didn't have enough time. Again, it's always, I get caught up and I get so excited about this. And we appreciate each and every one of you. If you have a prayer request, go to our website, abundanttv.com, hit the prayer request link. We've got so many. And follow us also on Facebook and on Instagram and all those neat places on social media.
And if you want to hear more, go in depth, join us on our podcast.
That's it. Hey, go out there and live an abundant life.